Let's talk about how Joe Biden may be presiding over the end of American global dominance. From the Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales. Talks between Riyadh and Beijing have accelerated as the Saudi unhappiness grows with Washington. Now, there's two big points to make here. First, some people are screaming, it's fake news, don't believe it. And there's some reporting coming out saying it's not true, it's not true, it's not going to happen. However, what we do know, as I mentioned in the previous segment, even Trevor Noah criticized Joe Biden because Saudi Arabia refused to take his call. We also know they invited Xi Jinping to the country. At the same time, we're hearing reports that they're considering trading oil in yuan. What this will do is it's going to strengthen Chinese currency and their government and their economy substantially. It's going to send signals to everybody that if Saudi Arabia does this, because they trade exclusively in US dollars, that it's good for you to have yuan because you can buy oil with it now. Exactly. That is the first, chipping away of U.S. global dominance in terms of the petrodollar, the reserve currency. And what Americans need to understand is that a large portion of the wealth we have comes from the fact that we are the progenitors of reserve currency around the world. If that ends, we have very little to offer everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about how much the value of our dollar is boosted by the fact that everybody has to purchase U.S. dollars if they want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia.
I think it's
not just Saudi Arabia too.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
80% of the oil market.
I think of Saudi as like the nozzle on the hose, like the garden nozzle that you squeeze to squirt it. And we are the hose. We're producing the fluid that's coming through this hose. But if Saudi wants to twist shut, we have no more way to get that oil out to the world. If they don't want to sell it in U.S. dollars, that's like the tip of the spear.
So does this also make inflation much worse if we printed all this money and now all these foreign governments are no longer possessing it?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if they start dumping it, then we're going to have dollar bills in the streets being shoveled into the gutter.
And I just don't understand how people could be too shocked that we printed, 80% of the dollars in existence over the past 2 years or something along those lines, or in circulation?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, in circulation. I mean, of course we're just going to be inching towards losing our status as world reserve currency. Why would anyone be willing to depend on our currency?
Well, this is why the White House is so desperate. They called in the TikTokers to lie to young people.
They're going to fix
also,
it.
it's not our currency. The U.S. dollar is Federal Reserve currency. It's a private company. We don't have the Congress doesn't control it anymore.
What bothers me the most about what the White House did with these TikTokers, it's basically just like spitting on these kids. Like kids who are finally asking, why is my gas $7 in LA? That's one thing that this young woman said. She was like, we want to know why gas around the corner is $7 a gallon. It's because of Putin. And I'm like, it's not. It's literally not because of, like, ask yourself why California has $7 a gallon and you go to Arizona or Colorado, it's $4.
But that's the oldest mind control game in the book is you need a common enemy when things are tough. You need a distraction and you get everyone worked up, and now we're in war mode and we've got an enemy, so we're all going to come together.
Dude, after 9/11, it was the craziest mass formation psychosis. People wanted to blood. They wanted to be in the Middle East. And then they're like, and Iraq. And they're like, yeah, whatever, man. I'm hungry. Feed me.
Look at what they're doing with Ukraine now. There's a comic mocking leftists. And I'm seeing leftists post it. So I'm actually like, good. Where it's like, Russia says, there's weapons of mass destruction. And they're like, oh, okay, we're okay with that now. Like, the United States invaded Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. Putin's got weapons of mass destruction. We're going to invade Russia? No, of course not, because Russia's actually a threat to us. The issue is you have all these leftists who pretended to be anti-war, who said war is bad, and now that Ukraine is all in the press and all in the media, they're all waving the flag saying we got to do something.
And they also impeached Trump for suggesting essentially that Biden had some oddly close relationship with Ukraine, and sure enough, it's seeming like he does.
I think it's undisputed that his son was on the board of Burisma.
Well, that is undisputed.
Yeah, it's indisputable. For sure, Biden is interwoven in that Ukrainian
Right,
mess.
but he was trying to claim, like, oh, it's no big deal. That's just my son. I don't know. Like, he's clearly, like, obsessed with Ukraine and has been for years. And that was kind of at the heart of, the impeachment is Trump was kind of right. Like, why are you into Ukraine so much, dude? Like, it really doesn't have anything to do with us.
I'm just asking, do you think it was that he just wants the land mass to move oil, or is there something more? I mean, this is just a wild, I don't know if you have the answer to this, but what do you think it is? Why Biden's been obsessed with Ukraine for so long?
Oh, I have no clue other than, I mean, we know that obviously his son has a lot of money ties there, but I have no clue.
Oh, boy.
It's like the breadbasket of
I was
Europe.
just walking over to grab their water, but come on, Ian.
Either Russia...
We talk about this
We cover
enough.
this all the time.
It's either Russia or Europe wants that Ukrainian breadbasket. They want to feed their country.
That's not it, yeah.
About
least
20%
historically.
of natural gas, I believe, goes through Ukraine from the company Gazprom, which Russia controls. This allows Russia to control prices and make them very, very high. So what we end up seeing in Europe is energy prices are pretty high. What happened when France tried putting a small petrol tax on the people for climate change reasons? So they claimed climate change. People rioted for a year and a half. So the U.S. and Western interests destabilize the Middle East, which Syria. Somehow we start seeing Western resources like Mike's Plumbing end up in the hands of jihadis.
Oh yeah.
U.S. support for rebels, the U.S. allies supporting ISIS, and it was destabilizing Assad. Very, very convenient for us because we wanted to get rid of him so we could build our pipeline to offset the gas monopoly. Then you get, Trump comes in. Trump flattens ISIS. Russia's like, okay, good. My ally is secure. Trump was doing things that was ending war. It's a good thing. ISIS is bad. Got rid of it. This de-escalated tensions between Russia and the West. That's a good thing. Joe Biden gets in, and what happens? Immediately, you start seeing activity in Syria again. One of the first things we saw under Biden, and everyone talked about it, was we're hearing reports that U.S. troops were now moving back into Syria. Of course, that's going to make Putin very angry because Syria is an ally, and Russia has a military base, a naval base in Tartus. So now U.S. troops going back in was once again aggressing upon Russia and its interests. Then you go to Ukraine. The West starts pushing again. And then Russia says, okay, we're done. We're not doing this.
I'm looking at Gazprom. First time I've really looked into Gazprom.
Yeah, it's not like they control literally all of the gas right
It's 120 billion in sales in 2019. They said it was rated the largest publicly listed natural gas company in the world and the largest company in Russia by revenue.
That's right.
The largest Russian company. So Biden was trying to get the oil away from Gazprom and start taking it
compete with it.
With a different company. Is that Burisma?
It may have been Burisma. Burisma was an energy company. Just so happens that I think there was a CIA director on the board. There was Hunter Biden on the board getting paid $83,000.
Well, that's some deep state.
No, these are just corrupt people, man.
They're getting administrative bureaucrats on the board of a Ukrainian gas company.
It's as corrupt as they come. But the simple picture is the United States and the West were interested in destroying the nations of Syria and Ukraine to save money on gas.
And Iraq. Let's not mince words. They're sucking that oil out of that country as we speak. Libya too. My God.
Iraq a little bit. That was seemingly Iraq and Afghanistan was like Bolton's wet dream of invading Iran. So Afghanistan and Iraq really allowed the United States to position a bunch of military bases on the west and east of Iran. And then you ended up with Bolton under the Trump administration saying, by this time next year, we will be celebrating in Tehran. And it was just like, man, this guy's nuts. Because Iran is not like Afghanistan. It is a mountainous, well-defended country with a lot of people, and I think they have really, really great surface-to-air missile capabilities or like anti-air capabilities.
Iran,
yeah.
Yeah. I imagine the Russian. Are they allied with the Russians?
I don't think so, dude. I don't know if it's a foreign policy.
I imagine they've been loaded with Russian weaponry or Chinese weaponry
probably
at this point.
But this is what's starting to happen. These are the two blocks. So
the
scary thing is when you consider this, and then you consider what. It's almost like the administration in power right now is a zombie version of what it was during Obama. Like, it's trying to walk in the direction, but it's just failing miserably. And now with Saudi Arabia making these moves, they're not answering his phone because they don't respect him. Because why would I talk to Joe Biden? That guy's not doing anything. I think the world looks at the United States and they say they're fractured within. Their president can't speak straight. He'll do nothing to stop us. And there was a Russian TV presenter who said that Russia can do anything, including biological or nuclear attacks, and the United States will do nothing to stop us. That's what they said on TV. And that's, I believe, a legitimate viewpoint our adversaries now have.
Well, and you have to look at China. I mean, China potentially unleashed a biological weapon in some capacity, and we've done nothing.
Yeah, I was sort of talking about that on the show the other day, the fact that we argued it was an act of war when non-government Russian actors purchased $46,000 worth of Facebook ads. But China releases a virus, which is, according to Sir Francis...
Whoa.
What's
China releases?
Oh, I'm
a virus
sorry.
was released
a virus
in
was
China,
released, but
or got out. We don't know exactly.
Even if it's accidental, if a country accidentally does something which kills, we're being told, over 800,000 people, it's hard not to consider that an act of war. Yeah, well, at least in the... but within our borders
Pelosi
specifically.
is blocking congressional hearings. I mean, we don't know definitively the answer to these questions, in part because they refuse to ask the questions.
I think because EcoHealth Alliance was involved, that it's multinational at this point. Who do you go after?
You know what? Forex trading is something people do, right? Foreign exchange, buying yuan.
Oh yeah, I think so.
How much? I'll tell you this. I'm confident in the Chinese currency at this point. I'm not confident in U.S. dollars.
I'm not confident in fiat at all. I think this is fiat. The yuan is also fiat. They can print trillions of it.
I'm not going to buy any Chinese currency, but Bitcoin, for sure.
You can't print Bitcoin. You can only create what's already there.
You can mine it. Yeah. I'm every day. I hear more and more news where I'm like, how long has the dollar got left?
Huh. Yeah.
No joke, man.
18 years.
It's not like it's the weakest currency in the world. It's strong. You know what I mean? If you look at Hryvnia, for instance, Ukraine. I mean, they're just currency is brutally
when
bad.
You see those countries that have $1 trillion bills,
right?
Yeah.
But how long until the yuan takes over as the reserve currency? Maybe not overnight, but it looks like we may be moving in that direction. I think when it comes to these currencies, you'll take a look at the strength of the government because the currency is backed by the strength of the government. Mm-hmm. If the U.S. can't maintain the force against other countries to use its currency for oil, they'll stop. And the U.S. can't back up their words with guns anymore. It's not working. Russia is proving that. China is proving it. China has a strong and stable authoritarian government. And COVID really shined a light. A lot of other countries are looking at this and they're like, well, when push comes to shove, China will weld your doors shut and execute you. Over in the United States, Joe Biden will fall asleep. Joe Biden was given the keys to he was given the vaccine. He was given all these policies and more deaths and more cases in his first year than under Trump in his last.
Yeah. And I think part of it is Americans are, so especially the people that want to talk about colonization and think of themselves as globalists, they're actually so sheltered that they can't situate international affairs. They live within America. That's really all they understand. And they hate people like Trump more than they hate our foreign enemies. And so I think a lot of what they're doing is purely designed to play on American politics when really the world is much bigger than that. And so I wonder, especially when you see these NPCs with their Ukrainian flags and their bios and things like that, this is really just residual Russiagate hysteria where, Russia bought $50,000 of Facebook ads. Oh my God. But then the Mueller report, everything falls apart and they've got nothing. And now this is like their last stand of like, see, we told you Russia is bad.
It's just so crazy to me that there exist people, for whatever reason, that live in that reality. Where it's like Smollett's story was a hoax, they believed it. Covington Kids hoax, they believed it. Michael Brown, Hands Up, Don't Shoot was a hoax, they believed it. Russiagate, they believed it. Ukrainegate, they believed it. I'm like, I don't understand. At what point does your brain just break from all the lies that are proven to be lies? Or is there something intrinsic to their minds where it's like the lie is better? It's always better to just fall in line. How many of these people actually know they're being lied to but are too scared to say anything, so they just keep going along with it? How many people are just so dumb they can't...
And you never see any reckoning. Like, you never see just even regular people that are posting on Facebook and things like that. The Smollett happens and they're all up in arms. You never see them follow up. I was wrong or I've learned a lesson. I mean, I think we need an apology at some point, because if we're not learning from these things... they're obviously going to keep happening.
Yeah. If there was just some accountability, a tiny amount, like you mentioned, just people having to apologize when they got something completely wrong. If we tried to foster a culture where people held their friends accountable for getting outraged over things that turned out not to be true, far fewer people would. But as it stands, there are literally zero social consequences for spreading lies that will promote your political agenda. Because when it turns out you either were lying or someone else was lying to you and you irresponsibly believed it despite the fact that they have constantly lied to you in the past and you were willing to listen to them again, there is literally nothing anyone says to you to even remotely bring you any level of shame for the fact that you have made the system work based on complete misinformation and that you're probably going to continue to spread it in the future.
I'm visualizing like humans walking a tightrope, and I'm down on the bottom watching them all fall off the tightrope. And like I can try and be like, hey, here's how you walk a tightrope, but it's so time consuming and impossible to teach these people that don't know how to walk it. So I'm just focused on building a better net. Because they're going to keep falling. These stupid people, these moronic hive mind.
Well, and they always have this circular logic where it's like, okay, it was fake, but the fact that I could have believed it could have been real only shows that the underlying problem is truer than we ever knew.
That's so true.
Yeah. What a crazy statement. But Ian, in your analogy, it's not that you're watching them on the tightrope. You're on the tightrope, and they're bouncing around and struggling, and it's making you wobble.
That's for sure.
And you're saying, guys, please, here's how you walk on a tightrope, and they tell you to shut up, and then one guy pulls out a knife and starts cutting away at the rope, and you're like, okay, we got a problem.
The upside of that is all the wobbling has made me become a better tightrope walker, but it's still annoying
Yes.
when they wobble the tightrope.
Yes, Ian, all of the chaos has made me better at survival.
Yes.
Truth be told.
Thank you for
And
the
I'm
resistance.
looking forward to that tightrope snapping, and then I hold on and swing like Tarzan off to safety.
Like, as you're talking about these people just buying the lies over and over again, I'm like getting frustrated, and then I start to get angry, and like I can't help those people anymore. I can't
And
even
I think
try.
that's a really important point. I mean, there's an emotional cost to all this. Like, it's just not fun to argue with your friends who are saying this stuff that you don't agree with politically. You see the people that put the effort into really kind of being congenial and saying, well, where'd you get that? Let me question this assumption. It's easier just to ignore them because it's just grueling. It's just, you're on a treadmill and it's frustrating. And I think people just give up. And that's where you start to see this country separating because it's just not fun. I mean, who wants to do it?
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.